Welcome back to Morning Rendezvous, and of course it's time for the interview segment, and we'll be talking about the World Literacy Days, the International Day of Literacy, yesterday, Sunday, the 8th of September 2019, and this is celebrated every year. And today on the show, we'll be talking about the World Literacy Day, even though the theme for this year is literacy and multilingualism. But today on the show, it's adult literacy in focus, and to discuss that, we have in the studio Dr. Blessing Ayinkwa, who is lecturer, Department of Adult Education, and she's also the coordinator, Adult Literacy Center, University of Lagos State. And then of course she's the Lagos State chairperson for Non-Governmental Association for Literacy Support Services, NOGALS. And welcome to the studio, ma'am.
Thank you
so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And I think during the introduction you also forgot to add that she's also the hall mistress of the best female hostel in the University of Lagos, talking about Moremi Hall.
Thank you.
Okay, it's good to have you on the show this morning. Man. Now let's just set the ball rolling. Literacy and multilingualism. That's the theme for this year's celebration. How feasible is this in the Nigerian context?
Thank you very much. Well, let me start by saying that there is a link between education and development. And when you don't have people being enlightened, definitely our development will be faulty and it will be shaky. Now, having said that, I'm actually pleased that this year we're looking at multilingualism, because I think over the years we had been trying to provide literacy for adults, learners and youths in English. And over the years we've been struggling, because we want people to learn how to speak English, read and write in English. But I believe that with all that effort, they're beginning to say, oh, we've been trying this, why don't we go back to indigenous language? So it's like my year of indigenous language trial. Because if I, for instance, speak your language, the minute I approach you and I start speaking to you in your dialect, you give me reception. So that language bridges that gap that we would see between somebody who is already uncomfortable, that I don't know how to read and write, and then you're coming again, I have to learn ABCD, 2-letter words, 3-letter words. Is it meeting my need?
Yeah.
That's the question. But now I can talk to you in a language that will make you comfortable, so we have communication. And then when you have communication, there is trust. And when there is trust, then you can say, let's team up. Let's find a solution to your problem. So I think it is very feasible and is really apt right now that this is the thoughts. We have, well, in the literacy school here at Unilag, we have tried, and what we see is that we find that we make the effort to get adult learners come, we create awareness. This awareness we do not create in English. We have to create that awareness in the language they understand, so they know the need to come, which means we had already started doing this. And I am sure that the United Nations would have seen that severally people are doing that in their mother tongue. And so they've decided, okay, let literacy now go into indigenous language, mother tongue. Let's see whether literacy can move faster. Yes.
I like that the focus is on multilingualism this year, and then you have mentioned that it is important for us to for people to be educated or literate in their mother tongue, especially in the Nigerian context now. The issue, we have so many issues surrounding language, and we have over 200 of them in Nigeria right now. First of all, I'd like to ask, do you think that our vocabulary is enough to school a person, say up to the university level, especially because some of the concepts that we are talking about did not originate from our climb here.
Yeah. Let me take it this way, because you're looking at, since we don't have our concepts originating from here, I must remind you as well that we also have some concepts that we don't find in English.
Yeah.
And in order to make people understand what you're saying, it doesn't have an English pronunciation or an English word.
Translation.
Yeah, or English translation. Yes, it doesn't. And so you really must break it down to the understanding of this set of people. Now, again, I must tell you that the focus is on beginners.
Okay.
Because those that are acclaimed non-literate or illiterate, as you want to call it, but we always refer to them as non-literates, are not those of us in the university, are not those that are graduates. You have a lot of them at the rural area, and you have a lot of them as women, because culturally there's a reason why they're not able to go to school. Now, if we have a social cultural dimension, you find that if I'm poor and I have an option, I'd rather send my male child to school than the female child. So it makes all the female children the vulnerable, disadvantaged group. So go and marry. Have children. You guy, go to school, make money, have a home. So the people we are concentrating on are this set of people. The ABC, letter words. So for instance, you have a cup. What do we call cup in our indigenous language? Do you know that cup in our languages, you have different words for different sizes of cup, which the Englishman would just say cup. And so if your parents want you to go and get a big cup, there's a name for it. A small cup, there is a name for it. That is what we're saying. So it kind of cuts off all, that makes up our culture. But with this room, this envelope that is gladdening my heart, we can now bring up all the other concepts that had been eliminated because we want to follow a particular grammatic construction, and now make more of our adult women, youths align with development.
Well, Ma, you've actually said a whole lot. But talking about the non-literate now, does age have a role to play in all of this? Because you talked about catching them young. What about those that have, not within that age bracket of the ABC, that are adults or close to being an adult? Is it still possible for them to have that change?
Yeah, Lamo, I didn't talk about them young because don't forget I'm in adult literacy.
Okay.
I was saying catching them at the beginners class.
Okay.
Beginners class. Now we have adults that do not know how to read and write, and so they have to start from that beginners class first. All right. So when you say adult learners, you're looking at, in Nigerian concept, 18 years and above. That's how Nigeria recognizes an adult. So we're looking at maybe from 18 years and above, you didn't have the opportunity of coming to school because maybe economic reason, early marriage reason, or any reason. You have the opportunity to come back. Now, good a thing, the SDG goals gives, SDG goal 4 gives provision for access. So you find that is the provision. So you can still come back. You don't say, okay, I can no longer go to formal school, but there's a provision in literacy. The adult basic education gives you the provision to come back, to ameliorate that gap that you may have lost for one reason or the other. Now, when you get there, you meet people that are probably even older than yourself, so you're comfortable. Not that you get to the classroom and maybe you're the oldest of everybody in the class. But when you get there, you see that You're probably better than some other people, and so you're comfortable. So it gives that room, and everybody in the same class, you have the same problem. You can't read, you can't write, you can't identify anything. So everybody's starting on a clean page, the same level. So it's usually fun for us facilitators and serious business for them coming, because they see it as an opportunity that, oh, so I can still, be counted among those that at least have a form of literacy, not education, literacy.
Literacy.
Okay, with all that you have said, I have a bit of confusion in my mind.
Yes.
Okay, so there's literacy and there's education, and they're two
Sure.
different things.
Mhm.
And then, what is the sell when you're telling them, okay, you need to be literate, especially because it's done in the indigenous languages, and sometimes because of our experiences in the past, we have associated literacy with English language, with the English language. So what exactly is the sell when you have to now teach them in the indigenous language?
Oh, okay. Application,
Okay.
functionability or functionality. That's the sell. Because I'm saying, okay, maybe I should start by saying education would give you mastery of knowledge, content. Literacy would say, how do you use? How functional are you in what you're learning? And so that's why you could have a professor, but he's not computer literate. That's the difference, the application. So he has the content, he has the knowledge, but can he use the computer? Can he use it to make his work easy? He can't. So he's, at that point, he's not an illiterate, he's not a literate in the use of the computer. So we pick up the adult learner, and then we make the adult learner literate in such a way that that person can become socioeconomically independent. So the provision is life skills. So we teach you words that you can use for your business, words that you can use for your environment, so that communication is easy for you, so that you can use it in whatever livelihood you intend. For instance, there at the literacy school, as we're teaching the learners how to read and write, we make sure we provide what do you call it? Vocational opportunities. At a point, we taught them how to make Dettol and Izal. Now, you teach them the language around Dettol making and Izal making. You teach them the financial process, how to save money. As you get money, you don't just spend it. Maybe you join an asoso, that's the cooperative that they find to save your money, so that at the end of this sale, you have saved some money. You go back and buy more materials, and your business grows. So what it is doing is you're learning to communicate. At the same time, you're learning financial literacy. All right? At the same time, the simple communication. So if I come to buy it, you should be able to say, "Good morning, ma. What do you want to buy?" And I say, "Okay, how much?" And the adult remembers, 500 naira. Vis-a-vis, if I come to buy and that adult learner has no knowledge to make that transaction, that adult learner cannot sell, I cannot buy, because we have a communication bridge. So that's the sell.
Dr. Ma, this has been on for quite some time. Of course, drawing people out of illiteracy, giving them some form of education and all that. What has been the challenges over the years of, ensuring that people have this broader mind, and a more educated approach to things? What has been the challenges from your experience?
Well, Nigeria is a very populous nation, and it comes with a lot of challenges, of which illiteracy is one of them. Adult education, on the other hand, has always tried to bridge that gap. However, it's not easy to bridge that gap where you have a lot of people who don't really understand the reason why you should spend money in adult literacy. And again, in a country also where you have some people who are not educated and they are making it, is also a huge problem. For instance, you find, at this point, we always call ourselves preachers. You find us preaching the gospel of literacy, that you need to get, and then somebody says to you, but so person has no form of, but he has all the cars, he has all the houses, so why should I even make the effort? I mean, I should just have my direction towards making money. Other than that. And they give you these examples, and really, these people are making money, but it's not about making money, it's about what learning does to your mind. It makes you critical. It opens your mind to begin to understand why things happen. You understand them. Because even when you have money, if you're not enlightened, you continue to doubt policies. You continue to doubt development. You continue to see yourself as second hand. Because even with the money, they continue to have that complex. So that is one of the problems. And then, do you know that culturally, you have some, well, I don't want to really cover, if you Southeast, you have that culture where the boys are all out of school because they need to make money. And the girls are in school. So there is like an agreement. You go to school, and then I marry somebody who didn't go to school but has money, and there's a blend. So if I have to write anything, my wife will write it. She's educated, and she needs money. I give her money, and it's working. So it's a big problem for us to convince people that they actually need to be that enlightened when that is working. But when you ask the wives to tell you that they would have preferred that their husbands are enlightened, it means there's something that enlightenment from literacy would have done if the provision is there. Then of course, other problems with policy and implementation, bridging the gap. We always have very beautiful policies. Implementation is always a problem. Now, why do we have problems in implementation? It has a lot of things under it. For instance, qualified facilitators. Because the methodology and the principles for teaching adults are not the same with teaching children. So the fact that you feel that, okay, I can use retired teachers just because they have the principles of teaching the young ones, it doesn't apply with the adults. So we don't have that, usage of qualified facilitators. And then we don't even have infrastructure. For instance, you see, we have to use seats for primary school. You can imagine your grandmother sitting and standing. So it's not that comfortable. And then we don't have materials. Let me tell you something. When we started the literacy school here, I would proudly say that we started it and we had collaboration from the state agency for mass education. They used to give us materials. They gave us exercise books, 2A, 2D, 2B. They gave us primer, textbooks. But 2-3 years afterwards, all that stopped. No funding. Now we're supposed to teach adult learners, and we don't have exercise books, we don't have textbooks. It is also supposed to be freely taught, because these adults, they are poor, and you're trying to motivate them to come, and so we give everything to them to come. Now when you are not able to give all that, how do you want the progress? So funding is also a problem. All right. Now, ability to even sustain the learners is a huge problem, because these are learners that own themselves. So they come to school today, they don't come tomorrow. Yes.
Nobody to hold them accountable.
Yes. So this they have their own way of life, totally. We struggle to motivate them. We struggle to keep them in school. We struggle to make sure that we don't have attrition and finally relapse.
Well, Doc, with all the challenges you have actually mentioned, that's to tell you that we've not even started at all, and we still have a long way to go. Now, what do you think is the way forward, basically? And should it just be one-off? I think the celebration or the awareness should be a daily theme. You know, we should have different organizations talking about it, and at the end of the day, we should be able to say that in 2019, we were able to achieve this.
Yes.
In 2020, well, how do you think we can actually get to that level?
Okay, well, thank you, Lamu. I wouldn't say we've not started. In fact, what you've seen now is a very huge progress.
Progress, okay.
Yes, because over the years it was worse. But now, I mean, you could even have learners graduate. For instance, we've graduated a set here of 11 adult learners. Yes. So we have a lot of progress. Now, way forward, we have stakeholders in literacy. We have the federal, we have the National Mass Education Commission, and the National Mass Education Commission has state agencies that have local agencies working. Aside from that, we have stakeholders that are like international bodies. We have the UNESCO working with us, and then we have private NGOs. For instance, the NGO I chair for Lagos, the Non-Governmental Association for Literacy Support Services, work hand in hand with NMEC to ensure that literacy provision is upheld. And what we have done so far is that last year there was a pilot rural facilitation scheme, and the idea was, okay, the government wants to see, okay, all the stakeholders, let's join hands and see how we eradicate illiteracy to the minimum. We're not saying it has to be right now, it's a process. And we started with 6 centers across the 36 states. And in those 6 centers, we provided writing materials, reading materials for all of them. And we had huge awareness creation. We went to the communities, we, distributed flyers to let them know that we have centers that you can come for. You don't have to be ashamed of anything. Just come. Like the Christians would say, just come as you are. And so, surprisingly, they came. And I can tell you that we had a bar of not more than 30 learners per center. Some centers had 150 learners. For instance, here in Lagos at Woroshoki, we could not even, the crowd was too much. We had 150 learners. We had a center at Agboyi. Agboyi had 80 learners. We had at Festac. Festac had 50. In fact, I think the only sane center that had just 30 was University of Lagos here. Apparently because we were following rules. We're used to following rules. So we didn't open the doors to more than that. But that would tell you that the adult learners are also interested. If there's an opportunity, they would come. Now, another thing is not just the opportunity of how to read and write. If after reading and write and provision of skill acquisition, they want to know what next. And once there is a what next, then they come. And so the what next is what solves the problem. Because I feel that over the years, this is provided and then there is no continuity for them. But when they know that, okay, once you come out, there is a second phase. For instance, after this, the very next stage is, okay, now you have a possibility of communicating and reading and writing. We have free skill acquisition centers, which is the next phase. You can then go and have another 3 months after which you're given a takeoff grant if you do well. That is the next. So if I had gotten a takeoff grant, I'm going to preach the gospel. I'll tell, oh, please go for that. After that, you go for this. After this, you have something to do.
Exactly.
And that sustainability is what the adult learners want. They need to feed their families. Yes, it's not like the young ones. Young ones have time of age and youth. But the adult learners don't have that time. So whatever they're learning must be for immediate use, economic benefit, social stability, political stability. They need to be all-round relevant.
Now, let's take a look at, of course, a little deviation from adult literacy now to the number of out-of-school children that we still have in this country. Way over 10 million, a population of 200 million, a little over 200 million Nigerians, and we know that the youthful population downward carries the chunk, and we still have an alarming over 10 million out-of-school children in this country. Does it bother you? And what's the way out?
Well, does it bother me? Of course it should bother anyone that we have that large number out of school. However, it's usually not deliberate. You find that sometimes the out of school children is as a result of war situations, and so the provision that may have been there for them is lost because of the situation. And so you find that the government struggles to get them all together again. Aside from war, I talked about that culture. It also makes a lot of our children out of school because they want to make money. So even when the access is there, they rather not go, in collaboration with their parents sometimes, to make money. Lamo gave us a joke once of a boy whose mother, was asking him, why are you not in school? Why are you outside here? And he said, Mama, there is 1 million involved. And the mother said, there is 1 million involved. He said, yes, Mama, there's 1 million involved. And then next time he saw the mother running, he said, Mommy, why are you running? He said, 1 million plus 1 million makes 2 million. So the two of them are running together. You have some culture like that. However, we have some states that are doing great things. For instance, I know Delta State, Oyo State, and Imo State. They have what we call school marshals. And their duty is to apprehend, get these children back to school. And don't forget that the Universal Basic Education preaches free education. So we're not saying you're going to pay. So, but again, one thing that I found that has been faulty down this side is being able to stand on firmly on a policy. So when the policy states that these children that are out of school must be in school, then it must be taken to the letter. So they need to be harnessed, put back in school, and monitored. And then parents who go outside this rule need to be sanctioned. At least, what some parents will say is that they need help from their children, because this is Africa. Our children help us. However, there's time for school. So after school, they can then help. So they need to ensure that these parents understand it, that these children have the right of education. It's a Child Right Act. Yes, they must not fail to present these children so that they can, have a better future. So parents need to know, and that's why we always try to educate adults anyway, because when an adult is enlightened, that won't be a problem. But when the adult is not enlightened, it becomes a problem.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Blessing and Yiko. And this discussion, it still extends. I have so many questions I still want to ask you, but then time would not permit. And I'm sure that next time when we invite you over to discuss this topic, you'd be available for us. Yeah, thank you very much. And then we just had Dr. Blessing Anyikwa, and then we've been talking about World Literacy Day with adult education and multilingualism in focus. And of course, it's time for us to go for the sports segment. And when we return, we'll wrap up the show. It's still Morning Rendezvous.